Well, welcome to In Transit for this Wednesday. Let me take you back to a story from January 4th, 2020. It was after 3:30 in the afternoon, just about 3:30 in the afternoon. A van driving on Saint-Hubert made a left turn onto Belanger as the light turned green. And that turn, the van struck a 74-year-old pedestrian and killed the pedestrian. Why? Well, coroner points to the blind spot, that the victim found themselves wrong place, wrong time, right in the blind spot of the van making the turn. Coroner is raising concerns about blind spots in vehicles and how this problem is getting worse over the years. Blind spots are becoming more and more troublesome in certain vehicles, and now people are asking for this to change. Marie-Soleil Cloutier joins us, a road security expert and a professor at the National Institute of Scientific Research. Marie-Soleil, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Makos.
So let's talk about blind spots. What should we be concerned about? Visibility in our vehicles. What are we talking about here?
Well, the thing is that we're used to the back one, where we actually, when you do your driver's license class, you hear about them, you try them during the trial to get your license, and obviously maybe you did that 40 years ago, but cars did change a lot since. And the one that is really preoccupying right now is the front one, the A-pillar, we call it.
Uh-huh.
So basically what is the frame of your windshield? It's wider now because we want to make the cars safer for people inside the car. So sometimes there's a airbag in there and it's more robust. So if you roll over with your car, it's going to be safer for you inside the car. But unfortunately, it's less safe for people outside because it's adding blind spots around our cars now.
Yeah, and of course, backing up now, like I would, my car's got a blind spot when I'm backing up, but I've got a gigantic screen and a gigantic camera that covers that scenario. Is this happening? So, one of the trends we see now in the car industry is SUVs, right?
Yep.
Is this a symptom or a result of that virage towards SUVs and larger vehicles?
It is definitely the change in the car manufacturer promotion of bigger cars, safer cars, which is not always the case, obviously, but for a lot of them, as you were saying, we make it safer in the back with cameras, but up front, they're higher also, so the visibility is a bit different. But because of that wider A-pillar, especially on the left turn, you were talking about this really sad story of a pedestrian getting hit on the left turn. This is what happens in a lot of collisions that result in a dead pedestrian, unfortunately, because this is where you have to give your attention as a driver to the cars on the other side because you want to turn left. And those seconds where you are taking the gap between two cars, if unfortunately a pedestrian started crossing, now he's or she's exactly in your blind spot up front. So even though you are browsing and looking, you might not just see that person. And unfortunately, because you're in a big car, if you hit that person, even at slow speed, it's really bad injuries that can happen.
Is the A-pillar problem that you outlined, is that problem fixable without reducing the size of vehicles?
I would say no, but it's fixable if we make better environments for pedestrians and if we prioritize them. Because I think we need to go both ways. But as you know, car manufacturers are sometimes hard to change their mind, let's say, and especially here in Canada, it's a federal power, and it's really the trends are coming from the states. We're so close, and that's where everything is happening. It is something that I wish we would move forward, have better regulation, to have the angle that is the blind spot on up front, but this might take a little while. At the same time, really short term, what we can do is give a little bit more space and time to pedestrians so that they can be visible in the waiting of those cars to get back to how they were safer, let's say, for all. For instance, in Montreal, we have this lead pedestrian interval. That's the scientific name for this straight green arrow, for
Yes.
instance,
Yes.
or those few seconds we give to the pedestrian signal so that pedestrians can start crossing and then be visible outside of this dead angle, of this blind spot, basically. This is
And you know
something
what?
super easy to do.
It's super. But can I tell you, as a driver, I hate the straight green arrow. Here's what I find actually happens: it turns straight green. There's nobody in the intersection. You have to wait. Then it turns regular green. Then people show up in the intersection, and now you're rushed to make it before the light turns red again. I think the straight arrow is the worst, but I'm sure all the studies say the opposite, right? But
exactly. I'm sorry to say. Well, I mean, collectively, individually, it might be a little bit of a hassle for you, but for any driver. But collectively, it's well known to reduce collisions, crashes, and injuries to pedestrians, because obviously it depends on your timing on when you get to the intersection. But for the people who are there and waiting for the light, it gives them a little bit of a priority that helps with this, I would say, almost malfunction of those new super safe car that wasn't meant to be that way. And now that pedestrians deaths are rising, especially in the States, actually, a lot of people are raising this issue of, okay, we've made people safer in their car, but we need to think about people outside of those big cars now, obviously, right?
Just to wrap up, on the technology front, all of the bells and whistles in cars now to automatically brake if it's going to head into a pedestrian. Is that, is that just more of a long-term thing? Does it even work? What can you add on that technology front?
Yeah, autonomous vehicle, fully autonomous, are not for tomorrow, obviously, but there's several interesting devices like that one, the automatic brake, for instance, and we also saw a few of the front cameras now, or even the pillar cameras. For instance, in some buses from the SAM, you have, because in buses, we had this A-pillar problem for years now, way before the individual cars. So there's cameras that are replacing that A-pillar inside the bus that people basically see what's going on the other side of the A-pillar. So there's a few technologies around that would be helpful, but it's really a combination of all those things that would make it safer for pedestrians outside.
And Marie-Soleil, just one quick, because I have a note here from Joseph, who's listening to us and sent us a text on our text line. And they just mentioned mirror placement. They say, you can get rid of all your blind spots by adjusting your mirrors. Now, maybe not for bigger vehicles, but for a regular passenger car SUV, do we sometimes make a mistake on our mirror placement?
Probably, but that would be the back blind spot anyway. So
not the forward.
We do have to also improve our courses, I think, for drivers, and maybe a recall of this, because right now you can have your driver's license at 16 years old and never go back, So definitely there's something happening there, but the A-pillar wouldn't be solved by mirrors, except if you have a mirror up front your hood, for instance, which is not the case except for big trucks.
Marie-Soleil, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
That is Marie-Soleil Cloutier, road security expert and a professor at the National Institute of Scientific Research.